Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Self Love-O-Lution. Today's going to be an amazing one. We've got some really juicy people with us, and the topic today is going to be on nutrition, on nourishment, and how we love ourselves through food. So we've got Joel Gazdar, who is the founder of Wild Food Cafe. And
Hi.
hello, and basically you are such a visionary. I've got so much admiration for your work, Joel, so welcome. And we've got Juliet Bryant with us as well, who has a cocktail of healing and nourishment and lusciousness. So welcome, Juliet, and I'm so looking forward to this conversation. And also we've got the lovely and absolutely gorgeous goddess, Tara Love Perry, who actually was the brainchild of Self Love-O-Lution. So, and I am Tash Mitch, and I'm a chakra alchemist. So welcome, everyone.
Hey!
So Tara, start us off. Start us off with Self Love-O-Lution and basically your concept of that.
I'm not even going to say it's a concept, it's what my heart tells me to do. And that is to, let's raise the flag, let's raise the self-love campaign. Because my feeling and my experience is that through loving myself unconditionally in as much of my life as possible, in as many areas of myself, my soul, my heart, my body, my mind, that that revolutionizes me and helps me evolve as a human being more than anything else I've ever experienced, ever. And if I can do that for myself and everybody else can do that for themselves, and we can love ourselves so unconditionally, then what kind of world would we be living in, and what kind of world would we pass on to our children and our grandchildren? And that just makes me feel so excited and blissed out and happy, and there's so much possibility, and it's like it's a boat that can carry everybody. Everybody needs more love. Everybody wants love. Everybody loves to be loved. And what would happen if we could just love ourselves the way that we want other people to love us? Evolution, baby.
Yeah. That's a huge, basically when we mix nutrition, we mix food, which, you know, the nourishment element into the self-love sort of piece, the self-love story. Because I don't think anybody, I know for me definitely, we're not born with a manual when it comes to food. And a lot of us stumble around the whole sort of food piece. Yes, it's a huge part of our story in terms of what we're able to give, how much energy we're able to hold, the frequency and level of energy that we're able to actually blast out into the world. The nourishment aspect is so important. So, yeah, I'd love to hear, Joel, how did you come to the nourishment and lusciousness of raw food?
By using my manual that I was born with. The we're all told we weren't born with. Yeah, when we think of a manual, we think of a really long, complicated, boring book that a lot of us never take the time to read anyway, even if we were given it. So that's more of an intellectual manual, which sometimes those kind of long-form equations are useful. But the manual I'm talking about is a barometer or is a compass. So that manual is not complicated, it's super, super, super simple. So simple it blows the mind's computational power. It's, and that is following our feelings and using our feelings for guidance, which is rather than like expecting a long-winded intellectual answer. It's like, okay, what, whether this is food or something else, relationships, you name it, what makes me feel really light right now, what makes me feel really excited right now, what makes me feel uplifted right now, and that'll go for food choices. But I started down my adventures in food because I had a remembrance and a realization of feeling really good, and this is in my teenage years, and I was like, wow, didn't I used to feel like this as a baby or a child? And then all this memory came flashing back to me, and I realized, oh, I'd been cutting myself off from my natural flow of well-being. And then I decided, okay, how can I live in such a way? How can I think in such a way, have a lifestyle in such a way, follow a life path in such a way, eat in such a way that puts me in alignment with feeling good and infinite intelligence, inner guidance, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. So that's what led me down my experimentations with food, which I definitely wouldn't limit to the term raw food, but raw food's a huge catalytic part of it, especially because it's going in the opposite direction of mainstream food, which is more and more over-processed, is the generation we've grown up in. So raw just means, you know, simple, closer to its original source. Doesn't necessarily have to be under 42 degrees all the time. But
Jolie, tell us the story, because I have to tell our viewers, by the way, thank you for joining us, everybody. Just
so
you can put it in the chat box, by the way. There's a chat box on the question box. If you have questions for Joel or Juliet or Tash or any of us, just pop them there in the question and answer box, and we'll mention you. But Joel, right? I've known Joel for years, and it was his glowing, gleaming, sparkling eyes that caught my attention. And he just beams. He's just like a radiating machine of just love and oozy goodness. And Joel told me, didn't you, Jolie, right back in the beginning, your story of what you used to eat. And so when you just said that then about how you had that remembrance of feeling good and wanted to get back to that place, do you remember can you tell us?
I've got no idea what I said. What did I say? It's in my memory. It was probably at least 10, 12 years ago or something.
So I'm going to say this live on air. Joel Gazdar of Wild Food Cafe, Neal's Yard, the supreme rock star, raw wild food, used to eat McDonald's.
Yes, I confess.
And I think that is so amazing and wonderful because, let's face it, loads of people eat McDonald's.
Yep.
Right? So I want to know, and I want Juliet to chime in on this as well, about her experience of going, okay, so when you're eating food that is mainstream, that we all grow up on, that's kind of normal for most people, what was it that made you want to choose something else or opened the door of something new to you? Like, what was the shift point?
Is that for me to answer?
For everybody.
Okay. So for me, it was funny because it comes back to what this whole thing's about, self-love. And I went through a phase of eating McDonald's and all of that stuff when I was a teenager to blot out what was happening in my life that I didn't like. My mum was terminally ill and there was a lot of stuff going on, so it's really funny when I look back at it now because I was really dampening down my emotional state to cope by what I was eating. And it took me until I got pregnant with my oldest boy to kind of go, hang on, I'm responsible for another human being. I don't want to corrupt my body anymore because it wasn't about me. So the ability to self-love came kind of, round the houses because I was able to think, well, actually, I can really look after my body because I am holding another life and I want to do the best I possibly can for him. And it was in that process that suddenly I started realizing that I had to love myself because we don't get taught that really. I think quite often we're taught the opposite of that. We're put down, not that my parents put me down, I had very supportive parents, but society puts us down and it diminishes our energy quite a lot. As a teenager, as a youngster, you're not valid, your opinions. And we're not taught in school that we should be caring for ourselves. And so for me, having this other life form in me and also having to have the energy to support him when he was born. And this is something that is a constant cycle for me of remembering that self-love through what I'm putting into my body. Because when you're a parent, like you have to be endlessly giving, don't you? It's this constant stream of nurturing. And if you don't give to yourself, you won't be able to give to your family. And this is kind of what I found kept happening to me. I'd give and give and give, and then I'd crash and burn out because I wasn't giving enough to myself. And I thought giving to myself was being selfish. You know, so it was that retraining that actually looking after yourself isn't being selfish. Taking time to know yourself and make really good food, if it's just for you, is not being selfish. But that was like mass retraining of the brain. And I think that's what's going on with a lot of people when it comes to food is they're dampening down their emotions, they're dampening down their spiritual energy because it's all a bit too much. And food is such a perfect way to just suppress. Because when you start eating raw foods, your vibration starts to lift. You start to cleanse this stuff that's stuck in your cells, you know, deep down in your body. Because this stuff, you know, every time we think something, it gets stored in our body. Every time we think and eat, you know, this stuff is just being in us. So when you start shifting the way you eat, this stuff has to come out to be cleared. And that can be hard sometimes for people. You know? So it's a big journey, really, but it can start really simply with a nice green juice.
I totally hear you, Juliet. That's really awakened me as well. When I was carrying my first child, I wanted everything so perfect and pure for my baby that I realized that I had to really up my game for myself. I totally get that.
I love the combination that you've got with the energy work that you do as well, Juliet, and mixing that in with, you know, the nutritional element. Because exactly like you were saying, there's one part of it where we actually remove you know, toxins from the body, etc. when we start to eat right, especially if we've been down a road of actually not that hasn't really been, you know, a big piece of our story. So bringing the attention into that then means there's a lot of release that goes on. But there's also that emotional element of it. And a lot of times, exactly like you were saying, and that was something I came across in one of the other conversations that you were talking about, how, you know, the mindset that we have when we're actually consuming food is a mindset that we have that actually plugs into the body when we receive the food. And so that element of actually the release being also on that emotional level and the energy work that we need to do with that. Yeah, that's a really big piece.
It is, and I think people. I think sometimes people don't realise the kind of depth of stuff that gets stored in them, and you know, I work with a lot of people who are trying to lose weight or trying to get healthier, or, you know, and, you know, some people it's deeply stored in them, these traumas and these memories from childhood or wherever that they're suppressing through food. And to say, okay, switch your diet and eat this stuff, I think sometimes that's not enough for people. You know, they need to be held. They need that guide to go, hey, you know, this is how you can breathe. You know, breathing is a really good way to ground yourself and stay centered and help you to release toxins and toxic emotions. And, you know, I think meditation and healing work, all that comes in because, you know, we are the whole body and not just the nutrients we eat. That's such a massive part, but it's part, you know, we are more than just our physical being.
When you talk about suppressing emotions and feelings with food, what kind of emotions and food are you talking about? What does that mean? How did it work for you guys? Can you tell us a personal example, a personal story?
So for me, my mother got MS when I was 8, multiple sclerosis, and it was quite hard, to be honest. You know, every day from really 12, I kept expecting at some point to have someone come and tell me that she had died. I remember one day in school, the police came to see me, and I thought that they were going to tell me, I was 11 at this time, that she was dead. And I remember that, like, oh God, oh no, is this what's happening? This moment that I can feel, and it wasn't that, but it was to do with the nurse who got locked out of the house. But it was this fear, and that fear stayed with me. So instead of being open, I was like this all the time, waiting. And so at home, my mother was very rigid and restrictive with what we ate because she knew how important diet was for health and well-being. And and her health and well-being. So she put us all onto like no animal fat, high fish oils, mainly vegetarian but with fish diet.
Anyone else still there?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
just, as Juliet just left the building.
Just She's back again.
Yay.
Hello, Juliet.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry. So, like, our diet became really restrictive in a lot of ways, and I remember what it made me want to do was just go out and eat the complete opposite as a kind of like fingers up to her, of like, you're taking this away from me, well, any second I can, I'm going to go and eat the complete opposite to what you want. And as a teenager, that's exactly what I did. I just like rebelled because I thought, you're restricting my life, you're trying to control me, and it's because you're sick. And it was this anger that I had that I wasn't speaking out, but my actions were showing that anger. So any moment I could, I'd get sugary food. Any time I could, I'd get chocolate. You know, I'd make myself sick sometimes. I remember going to friends' houses and just gorging myself on stuff because I was so angry and upset at the universe for having taken my mother away from me, made her sick, and made me have to go through all of that rubbish that I went through. You know, I went through bullying in school because kids said my mum was in a wheelchair and she was mentally retarded and she had to wear nappies. You know, and at 11, it's very traumatic stuff. So the way I could rebel was through eating a different way. Luckily, that the education that my mum gave me pulled me back round, full circle. And it's interesting because I started doing it with my oldest boy when he was born. It was like, you're not having any refined sugar, you're not having any wheat, you know, you're not having any animal products, and I became quite rigid in my view. I remember at a birthday party, he was 3.5 and he went to a birthday party, and I was the one who'd bought like my own cakes for him that were made with other stuff. I'd brought, you know, I was the kind of weird parent, and this was 11 years ago, so quite a while ago. And everyone thought I was a bit strange. But he had this piece of chocolate cake, and he got to it before I could stop him, and he shoveled this cake in his mouth, and he covered himself in this, you know, and he went ballistic, literally ballistic. He was bouncing off the walls. He went completely manic, and he went, "Mummy, Mummy, that's the best thing I've ever eaten." I went, "Oh no." You know, it was heartbreaking for me because I'd worked so hard. You know, I wasn't, at the time, I hadn't got into raw chocolate, so, you know, I think that might have been a little bit different if I was, but he was having a bit of chocolate. And
yeah, can we talk about...
I think that sometimes a danger that people can... Did you say, can we talk about raw chocolate?
Yeah.
I love raw chocolate. But I think a really important point, though, is I think sometimes we can get really rigid with our thinking about healthy eating, and this is unhealthy as well. It's like any rigidity is not a good thing because it blocks us from, A, listening to our intuition and following the flow of what our body might need. Because if you label anything, you say, I am this, then you cut out the whole world of possibility. And I think people become very dogmatic and scared to eat. I see this a lot. People are like, I don't know what to eat. I'm scared to eat anything because I'm only eating these things and I'm not having any gluten, I'm not having any dairy, I'm not having any of this. And they stop living because they're like this again, you know, instead of like that. And I'm not saying anyone should eat wheat or dairy or any of those things if they don't want to, but I just think it's that view frame that we need to really make sure we're not getting into when we first launch ourselves into changing the way we eat, because I think it can be destructive.
Holy Jolie, what do you say on that?
I say, yay! Very true. Very true. It's, you know, we can't, the whole idea of eating whatever, the whole idea of eating food is to feel good. You know, food is meant to be a celebration of life, of deliciousness, and if we're being neurotic about it, it just undoes all the good work. So it's actually, as far as I'm concerned, much more unhealthy to eat unhealthy thoughts and to be swimming in an ocean of unhealthy emotions than the food we eat. The food is really secondary. The food should be an accomplice and a partner in something to be enjoyed. And you know, when we're like Juliet was saying, basically contracted, basically energetically, emotionally constipated, all tight, rigid, we're not allowing joy, love, well-being, anything delicious to flow into our lives. We're not having inspirational thoughts. We're not feeling enthusiastic. We're not excited. We're not feeling full of vitality. If we're all contracted and tight, we're just suffering. And there's no point, you know, there's no point suffering trying to eat organic, raw, vegan, whatever, gluten-free food. It's completely counterproductive. So the first priority is always, you know, what are we eating and what are we feeding the world vibrationally? That's way more important. And the food is really secondary. You know, we've all seen people who have tons of vitality after eating a McDonald's meal, or eat McDonald's all the time, or any kind of junk food, and they have tons of vitality because they don't have a huge neurosis about what they're eating, and they're focused on feeling good, laughing with their friends, I don't know, being circus gymnasts, athletes, whatever. And of course, you know, maybe that food might be damaging them in some way, but the positivity of their mindset and heart set is so much more powerful than the foods that they're eating. So it's always a priority to focus on feeling good first, because you can eat the best organic, blah, 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 homegrown raw food, but if you're depressed or angry at the time, it's going to do you zero good. Whereas, you know, even if you're eating McDonald's or whatever, if you're in a really feel-good space, if you're feeling open, inspired, loving, non-judgmental, connected to great spirit source, whatever you want to call it, then that food is going to be alchemized through you. So
hold on. Does that mean, Joel, are you saying that it's not what we eat, but how we eat it?
How we eat it and why we eat it. What is third, I would say. So how we eat it is really important, but more important even than how we eat it is like, why are we eating? Are we eating to celebrate life? Are we eating to feel amazing and to feel at one with life? Or are we eating to numb out? Are we eating to basically numb out, which is to constipate ourselves, which is to disconnect ourselves from life, which is to clog up the pipes and passages of life force that are flowing through our whole organism, through every cell. So why we eat? Are we eating for the joy of it? Are we eating to have a special moment with someone? Are we eating because it's delicious, or are we just eating some weird green stuff because we're told it's healthy, and it's not actually, it's repelling us, our taste buds, which is not to say we shouldn't engage with it, but at a manageable rate, where you slowly increase your kale or your parsley or your nettle, where it's delicious and you're mixing with fruit, or you're mixing in a pesto, rather than like, oh, I've heard that everything else is really bad and I should just get as much chlorophyll in me as possible. I'm going to eat so much chlorophyll that I'm going to be sick and need to lie down. But I've told it's healthy, so I should do it because I'm following what someone else said instead of my own taste buds, my own inner guidance. And even if I throw it up, at least it did me good because Dr. Blah, blah, blah said it was good.
My kids always throw up their I give it to them when they're ill, and they're like, Mum, that cleaned my stomach out. Now can I have some Coca-Cola?
Nice.
But so much is about balance, isn't it? Because I grew up in the Caribbean, and the Caribbean, Caribbean people love carbohydrates. So like literally there's that I've been to places where like you struggle, and I mean proper struggle to see a salad. So like, yeah, the balance, I think balance is such a huge one, because I mean I've met a lot of people who, like Joel's saying, they've got the attitude, they're blasting out goodness into the world in terms of their energy, and you sit with them and their spirits are absolutely gorgeous, but ultimately longevity wise there's kind of like stuff going on there. You're kind of like, right, we need a little bit of a balance here. And I do notice it. I notice it in the Caribbean a lot. And I think anywhere where, you know, and it's like I was saying previously about we don't have a manual when we begin, you know, because a lot of times we're following, you know, what our parents or our grandparents, there's kind of like a family line of recipes that come through, you know. Some of it absolutely amazing taste-wise, but like literally they don't do a lot of good to you sort of like internally. So yeah, I feel like it really does come to the balance. It comes down to the balance, doesn't it? And I think the nutrition piece is not the only piece. So we can get really constipated on nutrition, but then ultimately it is such a powerful piece in the whole puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's like how I like to compare it. People might say to me after what I just said, oh, so we should just eat whatever feels good. So, well, I really like Big Macs, so I'll just eat Big Macs all the time. Is that what you're saying? And it's not so, it's got a lot more depth than that. So the analogy that I like to use is, I like to compare it to joy or bliss or sex or orgasms. That do you want to just have a little bit of titillation on your taste buds for 5 seconds and then to feel heavy for the next few hours or few days, or do you want to have pleasure that lasts? You feel all over your body, not just your whole tongue, and you're still feeling great hours and days later. There's so much more depth to how much joy you can feel. So yeah, you know, chicken McNuggets might taste good to you on your tongue for a few seconds, and so you should be in alignment with that and not judge that, because obviously if you judge it, then you're just ruining the whole experience. But overall, are you feeling heavy, more blocked up? Do you have a food coma afterwards? You know, and are your joints aching? Is your stomach aching? It's like, can something taste good now and have only positive knock-on side effects? And that is primarily down to the state of consciousness, mind, and feelings, and how appreciative we're being, and how much in alignment with the well-being of life we are, but also just paying attention to deeper, long-term effects without getting too serious about it. Just about responsiveness and adaptability. That's the main thing, to not be stuck in rigid patterns, as Tash was saying, you know, just following what mum did, grandpa did, whatever. It's about how can we really be alive right now and respond to the infinite palette and cornucopia of delicious foods that are available, and try new things all the time and be playful.
How can people start doing that, Joel? Like, how do you start to make a new choice like that? Because I know when I met you, I was trying to do my best healthy eating with my kids, and I got to the point where I was walking around the supermarket just not knowing what to buy anymore, totally freaked out. And I called on the universe to send me a solution, and then you rocked up into my life. And I wouldn't have known what to do if you hadn't have come and start saying, okay, we'll try this and try this. So how can other people, when they feel like I need to make a change, I need to do something to love myself more, to give myself that juicy all over orgasmic body feeling that you're talking about? Yes, I want that, but like then what? How do people do that? How would you do it? The most
important thing is to follow this internal barometer, or internal compass we all have. So you know, we'll jump back onto food in a second, but more importantly is, okay, how we think, how we feel, how we're breathing, and how much water we're intaking. Those are the most primary foods, and then the tomatoes, the avocados are the last bit on the scale, and those are important too. So being appreciative of whatever food we do have will increase the effectiveness and the nutrition from the food that we do have, even if that is just chicken nuggets. And then because we're appreciating it rather than resenting the chicken nuggets, we're going to get, because we're appreciating, we're raising our vibe and we're attracting more good things to appreciate. So then we'll know, okay, I'm going to try kale this week. So apart from that, hydrating the body is massively important. It's the most important food, and it's so often overlooked, and of course we kind of like, oh, not water, you sound like my mum or dad always used to tell me to drink water, or the government, you know. Why should I listen to advice that the government gives me, or, you know, the state dietitians drink 8 glasses of water a day? Just so you know, me personally, I drink between 3 to 6 liters of water a day. Not just any water. I find the water that really is hydrating to me, that's delicious. Most people don't drink a lot of water because they don't appreciate the water, and the quality of water they're drinking doesn't feel really hydrating. You can drink many types of tap water or plastic bottle water, and if you don't feel more hydrated and juicy afterwards, that can happen. There's plenty of things called water that you can drink that don't leave you feeling really hydrated. So you want to drink a water where you're like, wow, I feel quenched. And some water does that and some water doesn't. So you want to drink water that makes you feel quenched.
Where do you get that water, Joel?
I like to visit and collect water from springs, but I will drink a token glass of tap liquid or water out of a plastic bottle because I don't want to get neurotic about it. But I do go and collect about 150 litres of spring water once a month. And I go out to the countryside to a wonderful farm where they have a spring. And I do that. It's just a little ritual that I've had in my life since about 2002.
Is that like an amazing difference, just the taste-wise and what it does for you?
I love it.
Yeah.
It lights me up. You know, that's why I do it. It feels really good. It feels really hydrating. You know, there are great filters on the market, you know, but they can really add up. And it's still, there's something so special about receiving water that's come straight out of Mother Earth, that's really pure, really tuned into the ecosystem, really fresh. It makes a big difference. So once you've got those things sorted, so just starting with, you know, the right attitude and breathing, and we don't need to go into that hopefully, but, you know, breathing in alignment with whatever you're doing, dancing, walking, sitting, meditating, just being conscious of breath, and then hydrating the body. If we get all those things going on, just having enough hydration in ourselves makes our intuition work better, helps us detoxify, because we could spend decades of our lives, we could spend millions of pounds of all our money we've ever earned on really expensive organic superfood supplements, blah, blah, blah. And if we are dehydrated, our body is barely absorbing any of that, and our body is not detoxifying nearly as effectively. You know, we're going to be constipated. Just adding in more raw food or whatever, organic food, that's great, but our cells have to detoxify, and they can't detoxify, and they can't actually receive the goodness from the organic foods if we are shriveled up like a raisin. You know, each of our, whatever, 60 trillion cells is meant to be a plump, juicy grape that receives water in, and water is a delivery vehicle or a solvent to carry the nutrients from the food, and then water, enough abundant water so that the cell wastes and the dead cells can leave the body and we can detoxify. Once we've got that very simple mechanism happening, then our intuition works so much better to choose the foods that feel light and in flow with that. So a hugely simple tool that I use generally in life, but applied to food, is I look at food, I pick up food, I smell food, I make my food choices according to what feels really uplifting, delicious, orgasmic, makes my heart sing, makes me feel light. So if I've got 2 food choices, whatever makes me feel zing, more alive, I go with that. Whether that's looking at a menu at a restaurant, whether that's looking at fruit at the farmer's market, whatever, always pick the choice that your internal barometer feels lightest. You're not asking for a long readout of how many milligrams of vitamin A and germanium and selenium are in that food, and then to work it out neurotically, analytically. Your infinite consciousness does all of that in 1 second and gives you a simple, immediate impulse answer, which is this feels light, this feels heavy. You don't need to know the minutiae of why this is better and why this isn't, because that's putting us in our head. We just need to feel with our heart. This feels lighter, that feels heavier. Okay, I'll go with what feels lighter. You know, that goes for making any choices in any area of life, because, you know, it's about enlightenment, not about enheavyment.
Whoa! Who's blown away right now?
That's amazing, actually. But yeah, because that whole sort of thing of tuning into yourself is a big, massive one, and that's one of the reasons why I got excited about your work, Juliet, because it's that energy work element and really tapping into your own barometer, as Joel calls it. I call it navigational system. It's kind of like you have to tune in, and some people are really highly tuned to that, and for some people, that's a learning process still. You know, it's kind of like that sense of almost holding two things, and which one feels, you know, when you tune into it, where you're getting the hit, like, you know, so which one feels lighter and which one feels heavier. Some people are like instantly in tune how to do that. Others, you know, not so much. But the energy work element comes in with that.
I think a really, for me, a step before that, a really important thing that I've seen with a lot of people is the gut. And it's the rebalancing of the gut, because what we don't realise is there's so much bacteria in us. You know, we are made up of so much bacteria, and this bacteria gets passed down from our parents. I wanted to talk about this when you were talking about recipes from your parents, you know, and we get these recipes handed down. We also get our gut bacteria handed down from generations, and this can cause whatever the balance is of bacteria that's been handed down to you. This means you will digest food in certain ways, you'll absorb food in certain ways, you'll want certain foods, not because that's actually what your body needs, but that's what this bacteria need to feed on. So it's like the carbohydrate thing. Bad bacteria, overgrowths of bad bacteria, feed on sugar. And when I say sugar, I don't just mean refined sugar. I mean all things that sugar. The carbohydrate, you know, grains, fruits, all of these kind of things. So we can think that a culture has lots of carbohydrates because that's part of the culture, the way it works, but actually it goes back to what these bacteria are wanting. It always reminds me of like Little Shop of Horror and the plant saying, "Feed me, Seymour." You know, I don't know if you guys have seen that film, but it's this desire, and in our gut we have 100 million neurons. So there's more neurons in your gut than there is in your whole spinal column. So those neurons are all communicating with where? Your brain. So then
We just lose Juliet again.
Here she is.
Come back. Joel, I just want to say, by the way, I want to go shopping with you.
Yeah.
Can you do like group tours of shopping? Everybody with you, so we can have that kind of ecstatic experience, please.
It would get really confusing because everyone's intuition will be going to different things.
Hey, you're back, Juliet. Great.
Cats.
Where is she?
I can see her.
Yeah, your volume's off, Juliet.
Can you look like you can hear us, Juliet? Is that right? Yes.
Yeah, by the way,
okay, it's a lip reading. We'll just translate.
can you hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Am I back?
Yes.
You are.
Okay.
If anybody's got questions for these guys, please put them in the question and answer box so they can answer you. That'd be amazing.
So these bacteria are communicating directly to your brain. So we think we want something. You know, this is what's really trippy. You know, we get this message saying, "I really want sugar. I really want potatoes. I really want bread." But it's not us. It's actually these beings, these bacteria living in our gut who are communicating through us. And so if we can manage to clear our gut out and get that balance right, it's like a beautiful garden, and we can create that beautiful fertile garden, then our intuition can really speak through, because we know it's us communicating, not some other parasitic being inside us. You know, 70% of society has parasites in them. You know, and what I found is energetically, if you have a parasite in your stomach, living on you, stealing the top of all your nutrients, generally there are parasites in your environment as well, energetic parasites who are also leeching your energy. you know, these two things quite often mirror, because whatever's happening in our physical being is a representation of emotions, of mental state, of spiritual things. You know, things move through our field, and the physical is the last expression of that. So it's a really interesting thing when you start to look at, well, where is this imbalance? You know, where in my field is it? Because I have an imbalance in my gut, so I also have this imbalance somewhere else. And I think that comes back a lot to this loving ourselves. You know, if our gut is overrun, our life is probably overrun. You know, it's like I always view the garden, our stomach, as a garden. So if it's overrun with weeds, your garden, that is likely what's going on in your gut. There's not the good stuff that you want planted in there. So, you know, really getting back into, well, how can I balance my gut? How can I get rid of the bad guys? How can I put in the good guys, so that there is this really harmonious garden growing? Yes, some weeds are really important in your garden, but you don't want them to take over, unless they're nettles. I mean, nettles are always good, but, you know, a weed is only a plant that's in the wrong place, and that's the same with the bacteria. You want some bad bacteria, but you just don't want them running the show. You don't want them running your mind. So I think this is a really good step to start with for someone, so they can really hear their body. You know, generally, if you crave celery, that's not your bacteria, that's you. It's your body saying, I need sodium, I need to increase my hydrochloric acid levels. You know, so I think it's really good to step back into that. And it's very simple to address that. You know, garlic is a great way to start killing off bad bacteria. Oil of oregano is another thing that's really good to start killing off bad bacteria. Tulsi. So we have, nature provides us amazing foods that work on a regular basis to kill off those bad guys. But as I said, if you just take the weeds out, if you don't plant consciously what you want in your garden, those beautiful flowers, the weeds are just going to come straight back and take over again. So it's, you take out some weeds and then you plant. It's like, okay, I want to plant some beautiful, beautiful flowers. So let's get some sauerkraut. Let's get some water kefir. Let's get, you know, these other good probiotics going in, so I can really nurture my garden.
Joel, are you going to... You know what, Juliet, and both of you actually, I want to know so much more. It's so obvious that both of you have so much knowledge on this that you can never get it all out in this little Google Hangout that we've got going on. And just these basic steps of like, okay, find water that makes me feel alive and amazing. I bought a water distiller, and actually I'm thirsty all the time. And I don't feel quenched by my distilled water, so I really love that you said that, Joel.
Do you put salt in it, some unprocessed sea salt, before you drink it? So I would experiment with, you know, there's up to different types of unprocessed sea salt you can get from all over the planet. You can go to the spice shop in Brighton on whatever it is, opposite Infinity Foods Cafe, and they've got a whole bunch of salts from around the world. But just adding the salt, which adds the electrolytic power, adds the electricity back in, adds the minerals back in, and will make the water a lot more hydrating. So especially with distilled water, because distilled water is the water that most needs that to balance it out. So that would be my tip.
How much salt do you put? How much
salt?
Yeah.
So use your inner guidance and your taste buds so that the water feels more hydrating and more delicious, not so you feel like you've just drunk a mouthful of Brighton seawater and you want to vomit. So, you know, it can either be so little that you can't taste it, but it's like a token amount, and it could be like a very, very small pinch, to a salty amount where you can actually taste it and it's enjoyable. So for me to give anyone a specific milligrams would be really defeat the purpose of someone learning to trust their intuition and their fingers and their pinch according to the size of the cup of water, obviously. But getting that fundamental relationship correct is massive, because, you know, 2/3 of all life on Earth is salty water, whether that's the oceans or the body of living organisms. If you can get that one alchemical balance right, which is salt and water, those two always balance each other. You know, the only reason I use salt quite liberally, according to what my body wants, because I drink 3 to 6 liters of water a day. And the only way you can imbalance yourself is you drink too much water and not enough salt, because they are intimately tied. So when you're drinking water mineralized with salt, which is kind of what the ocean is, which is kind of what all biological matter is, it's not just sodium chloride. Unprocessed sea salt is up to all 92 biologically active and available minerals that Mother Earth provides that are essential for functions of biological organisms. Not only are those all those minerals there, but they're in the perfect ratio according to biological harmony. So it's like when you put salt and water, unprocessed sea salt and water, you're like having the ultimate homeopathic remedy. You're having a microcosm of planet Earth. Not only, you know, is it the ocean energy and all the minerals, but also it's pH neutral 7. You know, people talk about alkaline foods and acid foods. Yeah, it's great to add more alkaline foods because most people are really on an acidic lifestyle. But ultimately, the possibility exists. It's pretty hard to do unless you're really numb to over-alkalize yourself. But the quest isn't to be alkaline, because that's as imbalanced as like being acidic. The quest is to be balanced. So rather than like trying to overshoot balance and trying to overcompensate the acidity with loads of alkalinity, focus on the center point, which is pH 7. We all did an experiment in chemistry class when we were like 11, which is you take an extremely strong acid at 1 on the pH scale, an extremely strong alkali at 14, and you mix them together, and you know, individually both of those would burn your skin straight off your bones. But you know, really strong acid, really strong alkali, the extreme of the chemical scale on planet Earth, you mix them together and they neutralize each other perfectly, and all you're left with is water and salt, because water and salt is the epitome of balance on planet Earth. So if you get that one nutrient really sorted, that makes your whole body, clears out your gut. You know, there's a very powerful Indian yogic cleanse. You know, rather than spending hundreds of pounds on herbal cleanses, you know, you can build towards those, but you can do an amazing cleanse called a saltwater flush, which is just you know, follow the guidelines properly from a teacher. But essentially, it's a process of drinking salty water and doing yoga poses till you clear out your gut, and you'll be going to the bathroom and you'll feel great, and it will cost you next to nothing. You can achieve a massive result in one day. Anyway, I can go for 5 hours just talking about water and salt, no problem.
Sorry, I was jumping in there, but I'm trying to. So for somebody who's feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all this information and going, okay, wow, shopping, I'm going to do that with seeing which one makes me feel more amazing. So shopping's going to take ages.
So if they're feeling overwhelmed, sorry to interrupt, they're thinking about it too much. Their first priority always has to be to feel good. If that is the overriding priority, I'm going to feel good now, no matter what happens throughout my day, no matter who turns up, my focus is to feel good. If I'm overwhelmed, I'm being too analytical, I'm being too neurotic, I'm thinking too much, I'm worrying too much, I'm feeling, that's not what, you know, Source feels. Source is feeling unconditional love and appreciation right now. So the more you can get into alignment with that, all your thoughts, etc., are going to come into balance. So when you're thinking, when you have clarity of thought and clarity of emotion and you're feeling good, that creates a certain bacteriological balance. You know, the bacteria there, like Juliet was saying, but the bacteria are really a byproduct of how we think and our consciousness, primarily. And we can try to address it on many different levels, but essentially, culturally, vibrationally, what is there is because of the thoughts that we think, the emotions that we feel. So people who are very depressed and angry and feel like victims are going to have a massively different bacteriological balance, not just because they ate whatever junk food or they ate hardly any fresh fruit and veggies, but the fact is they ate those foods because they were thinking those thoughts. So if you can go to the source, and the most subtle realm, the subtlest things are the most powerful, so address it on that level. If you're thinking, we eat the foods that are vibrational match to the thoughts we think and feelings we feel. So we should always orientate ourselves with our navigation, with our compass, to what feels good. And if we're feeling overwhelmed by our food choices, then we just have to know that there's only one thing to think about. That's the next bite of food. and that it be delicious and joyful and make us feel open and expansive and excite our taste buds and make our body feel more alive. That's all we have to do, that one relationship. We don't have to work out what we're eating for the whole day, what we're eating for the rest of our life, if it's right, if it's wrong, how many milligrams of, you know, all the vitamins and minerals are in there, whether it's got eicosapentaenoic acid, whether it, whatever. You know, stop getting into a head fuck about it. It's just really simple. Enjoy each bite of food, and you know, part of that enjoyment is a playful attitude. So experimenting all the time, trying new things, being open. You know, trying something that might taste disgusting, but doesn't mean you have to eat the whole plate or bowl of it. If it doesn't agree with you, just have a taste. Be open to trying stuff. Spit it out if you don't like it. Try something new. Just keep playing. Keep being open to experimenting, which connects us with that childlike innocence and playful energy, which is essentially what well-being is. If we're disconnected to that, then it doesn't matter how much whatever, how many pints of sauerkraut you blend into a smoothie, it's not going to be enjoyable, and it's not going to do much difference.
What do you think on that, Juliet? Because I was trying to balance up. So Joel, you beautifully gave me that perfect, simple thing, sea salt with all the minerals in my water, and just start in that place. That was amazing. And then Juliet, you're talking about gut bacteria and my ancestors and all this kind of thing. And like, okay, if I want to clean my garden and get my balance right there, maybe is sea salt like planting new flowers? Is that like cultivating new good things? You know, where do we start with the bacteria there and the playfulness? What do you think?
I mean, one of my favourite things is making different water kefirs. I really enjoy doing that, and for me that's a really playful thing, and I think Joel's completely right. We have to be playful, and you have to have that attitude of enjoyment and gratitude. You know, the more we are grateful for things, the more we pull things into our life to be grateful for. And you know, just looking outside at the flowers out my window is beautiful, beautiful buddleias, and the butterfly landing, and just the colour, the vibration of the colour makes me smile. So taking that time, I think, to connect with nature, and some of the most rich bacterial things for us to eat are freshly picked from the garden, filled with microorganisms, not washed. If you've got a garden or a window box, if you can pick your own things that you've grown, this is going to be the most rich source of microorganisms for your body to really help you thrive. Plus it's so fresh, you know, and there's such joy. I get such joy from going out, whether it's forage, whether it's from my garden, and picking stuff and just eating it, because you know that the earth has given it to you. And before you just take that second to go, I am so grateful for being on this planet, you know, for being alive, for being here, and being part of this incredible organism. You know, we are part of this powerful, powerful organism, the earth, that's here to nourish us and provide for us. You know, it's a mother to us all. And that's what I like tapping into as much as I can, you know, to give myself that self-love as well. It's recharging ourselves with that magnetic charge of the earth, and honouring her for the beauty that she is. You know, I think society has got to the point where it views the earth as something that we are on, not something we are part of. You know, we are, you know, it just blows me away the more I think about the fact we are part of this incredible system that has the most amazing things on earth. When you look at a flower, you know, the geometry and the magic in that, and the beauty. You know, some people don't even eat any food. Some people just live on prana. They live on breath. They live on air. And it's, when you look at a flower, you look at colours in nature, I think this is...
I agree.
Oh no, she's going. No, just when she's doing something so amazing.
I think there are gremlins in my machine. Every time I'm getting really passionate, it cuts off.
Made it some kefir.
Yeah, but yeah, I was, you know, so I think that gratitude and that playfulness is really essential in whatever you're doing. But I like making as I was saying before, water kefir. So you get these little grains of bacteria, you add sugar and water, and you let them ferment for a few days. And then you can add fruits. You can make the most amazing drinks. I do superfood feasts sometimes and serve people that as opposed to alcohol, and it's amazing because people can really start to have a different mindset about things when you introduce new things and people try them. And like you were saying, Joel, when you feel light, when something makes you feel light and good, and they go, oh my God, there's alternatives. You know, that's, I think, what people need to see, that out there are alternatives. There are things like raw cake or raw chocolate. You know, you don't have to have a dairy milk chocolate bar to have chocolate and to feel amazing. You know, and I think introducing these things to people just in little bits, you know, because we're all on different steps, aren't we, on our journey. And it doesn't matter where you are. It's just about taking that next step, as Joel said, to feeling amazing, to feeling lighter, to really allowing yourself to shine.
And loving yourself.
Yeah.
With raw chocolate. Talk enough about raw chocolate.
We should have a whole talk just on raw chocolate.
That's how Joel introduced me. He completely blew my mind and, you know, seduced me with raw chocolate cacao nibs and goji berries, and totally opened up a whole new world. So Joel, I'll always be grateful to you for that. Guys, listen, we've been talking for a whole hour, and I think we need to have you on again, because there's just so much. You know so much. There's so much good stuff. I could listen to you for many more hours. So I want to know right now, as I'm sure our viewers do, how can they find out more about you? Like, what do you actually do? Where do people find you? How do they ask you more questions? And have you got anything really juicy that that our viewers can take away from you today? Extra. After everything you've given, can you have what can they have from you?
I've got a free webinar on the 8th of September, which will be great. So that's something. The details of that are on my Facebook page, which is julietskitchen.tv. Also, for everyone listening here, as a special offer, I have a Transformative Health 8-part webinar starting on the 22nd of September for the autumn equinox, which I will give everyone 50% off of. It's going to be a really in-depth journey into looking at all these different things that we've been touching on. We're talking about hydration, talking about food myths, talking about the power of our thoughts, you know, all of these kind of amazing subjects in a lot more depth.
How do people get that, Juliet? I want to sign up.
So my website is Juliet's Kitchen. That's JULIETTES kitchen.tv, and all the details are on there or on my Facebook page as well.
Amazing. So we're going to put the link after this hangout, because there'll be a recording and it will go live onto YouTube immediately when we're done. So I will make sure I go in there, Juliet, and post your website details on your Facebook page, because that sounds awesome. Gosh, that's amazing. Thank you. Jolie, how can people find you?
They can find me either by coming to visit Wild Food Cafe in Neal's Yard, Covent Garden, which is our ecstatic little oasis in the centre of London. So we're on the first floor, and we've been going nearly 5 years, and it's lots of fun. So come and say hi. Don't be shy. And what else? And we teach courses.
You're opening a new place, aren't you? How's that going?
We decided that we wanted to do it even better than we were settling for. So we decided to slow down and do it even better than we were.
All right, can't wait.
So we've done a pop-up for the last few weeks. It's finishing tomorrow, and we're not going to rush into doing the second restaurant until it's completely in alignment with the highest vibes. My new motto is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And there were loads of good signs and hints that this was a good project, and it was a good project as a pop-up, and a lot of signs from the universe that this was the right thing to do to grow what we're doing, but not in any way to compromise or to also be aware of the signs that say yes to that, but no to that. So we're working away on it. It's going really good. And we're now going to we've just launched a new menu a couple of weeks ago, or nearly a couple of weeks ago, and we're working on the next one already. And we're working on a big 5th birthday party, and as well as that, we're co-facilitating a festival this September called the Heart and Mind Festival, which is an amazing festival. Many of our teachers, many of which are incredible Indigenous elders and artists and musicians. And this is the 7th one of these festivals. It's the first one in England. There have been 3 in New York State and 3 in Poland. And they fly in lots of beautiful souls from all around the world to give wonderful presentations. The theme of this year's one is sound, vibrations, healing, and music. So we've got some really incredible guests coming in, and it's going to be in London 16th and 17th of September. So you can just type in Heart and Mind Festival and find it, either on its own website or Facebook. And we'll have, off the top of my head, we'll have Maestro Manuel Rufino, who is an amazing teacher and inspiration and just embodiment of love and bliss, and a very experienced shaman amongst other things, and yogi, and he's opened many restaurants himself in different locations across the Americas. And we've got Tito La Rosa, who's one of the most incredibly gifted shamanic musicians and elders from Peru. If you type him in YouTube, you'll recognize his beautiful music, and just his presence is incredible. He does these musical sound journeys and flower ceremonies and all kinds of things. So he'll be here, and then lots of other special guests, including Kevin and Nathaniel from New York, Pink Sun, which is this amazing musical collaborative, Ice Day, my beloved, and myself, and a few other people will be doing a panel there. People like Sam Moyo from Morning Gloryville, the morning dance party initiative that's happening around the world. So I invite everyone to come to that.
Darling, what about so with all your nutrition and expertise, do you share this? Have you got courses? How can people learn more from you, other than just popping into the restaurant and tasting your wild, raw, awesome, yummy
Sure. Well, we run courses every month. They're pretty much booked out a couple of months in advance, so it's good to plan ahead. And I've been doing those many years since when I first met yourself, and now they've evolved a lot more deeper and a lot more professional since we've been running Wild Food Cafe for the last 5 years. We do, a lot of what we do is introductory classes, but we also go really deep, but make it really accessible. So according to which time of year you come to it, we focus on the main central themes, but we also theme it according to what are the most important things to pay attention to at that day or that month of the year, because seasonality and the elements is really important.
So is that wildfoodcafe.com?
Yeah, wildfoodcafe.com is the sort of central hub for that. We put recipes, either written blogs or video recipes, out every week. There's an amazing newsletter. If you sign up to the newsletter on wildfoodcafe.com, you get one of our beautiful newsletters written by Ice and myself, with a recipe in it every week, and hints and tips and special offers, and what else?
Maybe we can have Ice Day on next time, because Joel and Ice Day are like to me, are like celebrity, gorgeous, glamorous couple, but of the raw wild food variety. You're just amazingly radiant, the pair of you. So hopefully next time we can have Ice Day as well.
Great, I'm sure she'd love to.
That would be wonderful. Guys, listen, this has been amazing. I kind of wanted to...
I'll just add that when people do subscribe, sorry Tara, to the newsletter, which they'll get all those bonuses, but they'll get a free ebook with a whole bunch of recipes in it automatically when they just sign up. So
at wildfoodcafe.com.
Yeah.
And Juliet, yours was what? Juliet'sKitchen.com or .co.uk?
Juliet'sKitchen.tv.
.tv.
No, .tv. Juliet'sKitchen.tv. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to be signing up to your newsletter, Joel. Can't believe I haven't done that already.
Sure.
Tash, what do you reckon?
This has been an amazing conversation. I've learned, I didn't know about salt and water, so that's going to be an interesting one to experiment with, definitely. And the gut element. I'm going to have to talk to you a bit more about Juliet. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys.
I'm a bit mind blown, to be honest.
There's lots to take away, isn't there?
Yeah, I feel full.
Yay.
Me. You have all your energy is just so full power. It's like, wow, I feel almost like a little bit delirious. Not drunk delirious or sick delirious. You know, like, wow.
So this is the Self Love-O-Lution, and when are we back, Tara?
Oh, good point, because we're having a little bit of a break over August and the rest of the summer because we just got so much stuff happening, but we'll be back in September. Don't have an exact date, you just have to watch out, and we're kind of putting a whole website together, and we're going to have, you know who our next guests are? I'm so excited because you must have heard of Jamie Cato, who was part of the creation of One Giant Leap. Do you know him, Juliet and Joel?
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. That's a great album, One Giant Leap.
Oh my God! And the film is beautiful, and he's basically not just he's creative. I think he's best known for that, but he's a cheeky one to hang out with. He's got so much fun, and he works a lot with people's shadows. So you know that shadow is what we were talking about last time, Tash, wasn't it? We were kind of going into that a little bit, and so he really works with transforming shadows and travels all over the world, playing with people's dark sides. Which is really fun. And we're also going to have a guy called Des Coroy on, who's a friend of mine, lives in Louisiana, and he's all about relationships and shadow work in relationships. So I thought we'd get these two prestigious gentlemen on and see what we can dig into the dark of our shadows with these guys and what fun we can have. So I don't have an exact date for that, but that will be at some point in September. So we just want you to subscribe and find us on Facebook. We have the Self Love-O-Lution on Facebook. Gosh, there's so much to remember. I'm going to put everything on the bottom here at the end of this video so people can find us. And we'll just keep sharing the love, just keep sending it out. So, Love-O-Lutionists.
I'm receiving it in.
Yay.
What are you saying, Joel?
And receiving it in.
Yes, putting it out and taking it in. Yum yum.
Work the pump, build the momentum. More in, more out, more in, more out.
Mm.
Are you talking like eat shit in a beautiful cycle?
Something like that.
Not being contradicted, but flowing with the divine force.
Momentum.
Self-love, baby. That's where it's at. Make your guts flow nicely. So before we get really up, before I turn this and ruin the whole beauty of the evening, I'm going to say love you and see you next time, everybody. Thank you so much, guys. You are astonishing. You're amazing. I love you.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Tash.
Bye.
Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.